There are 16, count them, 16 declared, rumored, or all but declared candidates for the Republican nomination for president in 2016. For a party that's trying to recapture the White House after 8 years of President Obama, is that the best way to get a winning candidate? Rich Galen is a Republican strategist, a columnist, and a former press spokesman to Vice President Dan Quayle and Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich. And Bruce Haynes is a Republican strategist. He served as a media consultant to the Republican National Committee's 2008 U.S. Presidential Independent Expenditure Campaign. Bruce, let me start with you.
Sure.
Is this any way to get a nominee?
Well, I think it's the way it's going to be this time, and I think it's it's a crowded field, but it's a good time to be a Republican. I feel like when you look at what our field was in 2012 and you come to today, it's like moving off the used car lot to the new car lot, because there are a lot of quality candidates in this field. I think there are really 6 or 7 people that you could easily see being president that are in this field. They're great governors, senators with terrific records, new and different and exciting candidates like maybe Carly Fiorina, who are new to the presidential field. So I think it's a good field for the Republicans here, and we're going to find somebody in this group that can run and win.
Rich Galen, same question.
As you pointed out earlier, before when you were talking to David Schuster, this is a long way between now and Iowa. I think 8 or 9 months before just the first one, much less New Hampshire, South Carolina, and North Carolina. And not everybody's going to stay in that long. Money will run out. People will get tired. They will recognize they're not going to make a dent in the polls. And they'll start dribbling off, certainly around the time of the Iowa straw poll in August. People will not measure up there. So I think by the time we get into the end of the year, the year of 2015, and begin moving into the even-numbered year, that this field will self-winnow, and we'll be down to probably the 5 or 6 people that have a legitimate shot and should have a legitimate shot.
I think the point you make makes a lot of sense. But if we look back at if we look back at 2012, let's look at your old boss, Newt Gingrich, who, because he had financial backing, was able to play deep into the primaries, even though he wasn't winning much of anything. Rick Santorum dropped out in April. He kind of ran out of money. He won almost twice the number of delegates as Newt Gingrich did, but Newt Gingrich was able to stay in the race. Could you see that happening in 2016?
Sure, and more now, I think, than ever before because of the super PACs. I mean, Marco Rubio, I think, has one guy in Florida that so dislikes Jeb Bush that he's willing to put up unlimited amounts of money in political terms to keep Senator Rubio in the race. Other people have those things as well. So, yes, that could alter the landscape. There's no question about that. On the other hand, at some point, even the big donors say, you know what, I'm a businessman. This is not going anywhere. Thank you for playing. You need to go home now.
Bruce, last time around, people looked at the debate schedule, the combination of a large field and the debate schedule, and said, this is too much. Let's not do this. Already scheduled for 2015 are a long series of debates all over the country. These candidates are going to be burning up the frequent flyer miles and the jet contrails, heading to hither and yon. That's just already on the calendar as we speak in May 2015, and there's going to be many more because we'll be deep into the primary season after the New Hampshire in the beginning of February. What can you do about an enormous field which takes the spotlight off these people that you're talking about, the 5, 6, 7 really plausible nominees?
Well, I think it's part of the challenge of running for president. You have to find a way to step forward and stand out from the crowd and rise above the folks who are in the race primarily to get speech contracts or sell books or do those kinds of things. So for the top tier candidates at this time, people like Marco Rubio probably, like Jeb Bush, Scott Walker, maybe Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, this is their chance to shine. This is their chance to show their political skills, that they can step out of a crowded field and take control. Interesting about Newt Gingrich, one of the ways he was able to stay in last time was that debate in South Carolina. That's where I'm from. I was actually in the hall that night when he took control of that debate at the very beginning of that debate, stood out, won the primary some few days later, and was able to sustain his entire campaign for months beyond because of that, whereas Mitt Romney had an opportunity to score a knockout punch that night and really close that primary down pretty earlier. He didn't do it. really extended the primary, and showed us a little bit, I think, about what kind of candidate he was going to end up being.
But as a practical matter, can you tell people they can't be on the stage? You heard the names that Bruce just mentioned.
Yeah.
Can you tell Carly Fiorina she's not in the debate? Can you tell Ben Carson he's not in the debate?
Sure, it depends on what the rules are and whether you win the lawsuit that immediately follows that. I mean, the other opportunity is to have like a lazy Susan where everybody performs in the round. I mean, that's just not right. But one of the things that debates do, especially the early debates, is they are part of the winnowing process. Remember Tim Pawlenty 4 years ago, who said he was going to do something to Romney, and then they asked him, would you repeat that on stage with Romney right here? And he couldn't bring himself to do it, and his campaign was effectively over at that moment. Rick Perry, when he couldn't remember the Department of Education, the oops moment. So these things are part of the process, and I think, you know, for most of us, it's what we do every 4 years. It's fun to watch, and they'll figure it out.
Sure, there are some people who melt under the spotlight, but there are some people who make a splash that they wouldn't make any other way, which gives them oxygen to continue, even though, if we were speaking privately instead of with all these cameras around, we'd whisper to each other, these guys never going to be president.
Well, and that will be part of the fun, but the debates are only part of the process, too. I mean, it's one way that we explore what kind of president that these people would be. But another way is we see them on the stump. You know, it's a wonderful thing in states like New Hampshire, Iowa, South Carolina, where I'm from. People are going to get a lot of one-on-one contact. They're going to meet people in their living rooms, okay? They are going to be exposed to a lot of television advertising that hopefully communicates what a candidate's priorities would be, how they would want to govern. And they'll certainly have some things to say about how they think the others in the field would govern, too. So there's going to be a lot of information besides just the debates that are going to come in and give voters a chance to sort these people. It will be a strength for some. It will be a weakness for others. But for a lot of voters, your presence on television, how you command the stage, it tells people a lot about what kind of leader you're going to be.
It's been that way since 1960.
It's been that way since John F. Kennedy. And nothing's going to change about it today. And so you can make a pretty good argument that we want to see those people in that arena and see how they're going to react under fire.
And even those who get through that early process, the early states that come one after the other, once you get into March and April and even May, where these primaries come tumbling over each other, 3, 4, 5 on the same day, 1, 3 days after the last one. It's not just the amount of money you have, it's whether you can organize a campaign, manage a campaign, let your people do the things that you can do. Not everybody has that skill, which is a skill you absolutely have to have if you're going to be president of the United States.
Let's talk a wee bit about issues instead of politics.
We don't do
Is the difference between the primary electorate and the general electorate, in the case of the Republican Party particularly, does that make it something of an obstacle course on issues like immigration, let's say, or the future of gay marriage now that 36 states have it and all the Republican field are against it?
Well, gay marriage may be settled by the Supreme Court, but you make a good point. And the old saw is you have to run to the edge, whether you're you're running to the left as a Democrat or the right as a Republican, then try to get back to the middle as much as possible. Those were the days before Google. You can't do that anymore. You can't say one thing in Alabama and something else in Massachusetts. But I think, the electorate is smarter than we give them credit for. And I think, and this is just my personal opinion, that when it comes down to the crunch, when it comes down to Republicans picking a nominee after they get through this process that we've been discussing, you know, who's the cutest girl at the prom, I think that what it's going to come down to is who can beat Hillary Clinton, and who Republicans believe can do that as a virtue, as the result of all these other things we've talked about. That's going to be the most important thing, not their particular stance on one specific issue.
Do you agree with that?
Yes, and I think as much as we like to talk about the issue of the day, if it's gay marriage or if it's immigration or if it's the latest battle before the Supreme Court or the thing that pops up in the press, there's still going to be two big things that Republican primary voters care about. And that's going to be what kind of security president are you going to be on foreign policy, and what kind of economy president are you going to be. How are you going to get the economy moving again, stimulate investment, create jobs. People are going to vote their safety and their pocketbook at the end of the day. And those things will be topics of conversation that will be very important to different parts of the Republican coalition. But it takes a big coalition to go all the way through these different states long marathon run, put together the group of voters that it takes to win.
And then turn them out in November.
Bruce Haynes, Rich Galen, great to talk to you both, and I hope I can call on you again as the race ripens.
That's your
Anytime.
pleasure.
Are vanity candidates and message candidates a luxury the party out of the White House can't afford? Or is there an argument to be made that a crowded field delivers a tougher, tested nominee to the general election trail once the conventions are over? Is history in either party any guide? Stay with us. It's Inside Story.